Hey, what's up guys? So today we're going to be going over the best build for Crusader hopping into Season 22 via the PTR stats right now. This build is absolutely a monster. In fact, it is hands down the best build for any class. If we're looking for the best class to play in Season 22, the Crusader is #1 right now, as it's the only build that has already completed a GR 150 via the PTR solo with multiple people clearing it, so it's not just like one lucky person getting an amazing rift. This build is absolutely a huge powerhouse. But anyways, let's go ahead and hop right into the changes. We'll go ahead and actually explain how the heck you have to play the build, as it is a little bit different than most generic builds in Diablo because it is a Thorns build, which means that you're going to be dealing damage when your opponent actually does damage to you. However, there is a really cool way that you can still deal damage with these bombardments. But pretty much the huge changes going into Season 22 is the change with the Norvald's Fervor set. This was a set that no one really previously utilized, but now it's going to be one of the best in slots. So it's a two-piece set that is a flail as well as a shield, and the two-piece bonus increases the duration of your steed charge by 2 seconds, and in addition, killing an enemy reduces the cooldown of steed charge by 1 second, and then you also gain 400% increased damage while using steed charge and for 5 seconds after it ends. That's how you're getting a lot of massive damage with Thorns, as it's a little bit more difficult to scale than other builds, but this just makes it so much easier. And then on top of that, we happen to have Belt of the Trove. Belt of the Trove also received a new change with the newer season update. For Season 22, every 4 seconds you get to call a bombardment on a random nearby enemy, and it also deals up to 500% increased damage. So even if our opponent isn't attacking us, we'll still get some sort of way to deal damage, which is quite nice for the build. So anyways, let's go ahead and hop right into the requirements, and I'll basically kind of explain what you want to try to prioritize if you are trying to build this. So first off, you are going to need the 6-piece of a con. However, since we're running a Royal Rear Grantor, we can go ahead and just have 5 of them. However, we're also going to be using the Invoke set. What's strange is this is technically a Thorns build, but we don't even run the Thorns set because it's outclassed by this combo of a con plus the Thorns set of the 2-piece bonus. And then we're also getting the 3-piece bonus of the Captain Crimson set for extra survivability as well as extra damage reduction. We also technically have a lot of block chance with Justice Lantern, which helps out our Invoke set with the 2-piece bonus every time we block or we hit an enemy with Punish Slash or block. We're going to get another multiplier with Thorn, so that's how we're getting massive damage. But this build will be very squishy unless you can have Accurate's Champion up 100% of the time. So if you find yourself dying, it's usually because you don't have enough cooldown to 100% uptime the Accurate's Champion. Plus, that is a huge source of your extra bonus damage. So prioritize getting cooldown reduction first over anything, as that will get your build up and running a lot more smooth earlier on. In addition to that, since it does require you to get a massive amount of bonus damage with your Thorns, you will need to go ahead and have that gem inside, specifically having a topaz inside of your weapon to actually scale Thorns quite fast. It does take a little bit of time to get the Boyarsky's chip upgraded. So if you're not seeing the damage, it's because your Boyarsky's chip is simply just not high enough in the level department. So just go ahead and level it up. It'll be a rough ride again in the very beginning because it's harder to scale the damage before you get this gem, as well as getting, of course, that topaz in your weapon. But anyways, let's go ahead and hop right into it. So this build is a little bit different. Normally you would see crit hit chance and crit hit damage on every single piece of gear that can roll it. However, this build is a little bit different. We actually do not need to get crit hit chance or crit hit damage. Thorns will not actually work with that. However, Thorns is still a physical skill, so you still want to get physical on maybe, let's say, your amulet, or you can go ahead and get it on your bracers. So getting physical damage will help, but crit chance, crit damage, don't even bother. Heck, you don't even need to get the damage on your weapon. You can completely roll that off, trying to prioritize getting that area damage as well as that cooldown reduction could be much better. But anyways, I'll mouse over the pieces of gear, but I will also pin down below in the comment section below the D3 planner link, so you guys can go ahead and just, if I was going too fast or you want to pause on anything, you can feel free to pause the video. But pretty much, again, you're looking for that area damage, reduction in the cooldown, as well as bombardment damage. So to get bombardment damage, it's normally like your main skill is usually on your helmet as well as your boots. But in this case, bombardment is actually going to be on your shoulders as well as your chest. And you can get it on your shield. It's really hard to get the shield to roll correct because you want, you could even get block on your shield, that's actually okay as well, but you're really looking to try to get that area damage, cooldown reduction, and bombardment. It's a nightmare to get all of the things perfect on a shield, so don't worry if you don't get everything perfect on a shield, but the most important thing is getting that cooldown reduction high enough in the very beginning to 100% uptime this, as when this is not up, you'll see sometimes in the gameplay when it's not up for like that 0.1 second, you'll just take massive amounts of damage, so just try to get your cooldown up as fast as possible. But yeah, like I said, I'll mouse over the pieces of gear. So with the 2-piece bonus of the Invoke set, whenever we are able to block, we're going to be able to increase our damage of Thorns, which is why we're also running the Justice Lantern over here, which will grant us extra block chance as well. But in terms of the amulet, you can roll off your strength if you want to go ahead and do that. Once you get high enough Paragon, this is like a no-brainer. You just go ahead and roll like the extra physical, or you can get anything along lines of cooldown reduction, area damage. You can even just get extra health if you really need it, as it takes a while, again, for the build to get like fully up and running. But in terms of the bracers, again, do not need any crit hit chance with that. Belt over here, just basically a stat stick for survivability. Same thing with the pants over there. And then with your rings, just try to get that cooldown reduction, area damage if you can get it as well. For our weapon, again, area damage, cooldown reduction, nothing too different with that. And then with the shield, pretty much, again, the same thing, which we've already mentioned. And then with the other ring, you can run Convention of Elements, or you could run Roller Ring of Grandeur. Either one doesn't matter which one you throw inside of the cube, as whatever one happens, I guess, roll the worst, go ahead and cube it. But in terms of the gems, we want, of course, Boyarsky's chip, because it is going to go ahead and actually require for any Thorns build. And then we happen to have Bane of the Stricken. This can be swapped out if you want to go ahead and do speed runs, which you guys are seeing. The first gameplay is a higher GR, and then we're going to go ahead and do speed T16s just to show you guys how fast this build can be if you just want to go ahead and run around with a horse, because it is very fast to go ahead and utilize as well. But Bane of the Trap is the other gem, which is pretty much in every Diablo build as well. And then for our skills, we're running Steed Charge with the Draw and Quarter. This just lets you go ahead and bind 5 enemies, and you get to see them with a chain behind. Sometimes it doesn't drag them through different terrain, but it just lets you go ahead and have extra enemies that potentially wouldn't get one-shot, or you can drag bosses to a certain area. It just kind of helps out with grouping enemies up a little bit faster. There is technically a Thorns rune for the Steed Charge, and it's supposed to deal the extra Thorns damage, and you can just like run through the enemies. However, it doesn't work the way that you would think it does, but you can try it out if you wanted to. But every build is the exact same cookie cutter build that you guys are seeing with the exact same skills. However, there is, I would say, some room for a swap in the passive department, which we'll get into in a moment. But then we're running Punish with Celerity, so that's going to increase our chances to block. Block is capped at 75 in Diablo. The number technically can go to 100%, but it still will be 75. So keep that in mind, because depending on your rolls, you might not even really gain that much off of something we'll talk about in a moment here. But anyways, yeah, with Celerity, you're going to get increased attack speed, which can help out, again, proc your 2-piece bonus of the Invoke set, because every time you hit them, you're going to get that bonus with your Thorns, so that helps out a little bit. And then we're running Akaret's Champion, Prophet, just for more survivability. Then we're running Bombardment, Barrels of Spikes, because that will scale with your Thorns damage. We're running Iron Skin with Flash, so we get to go ahead and move faster. And on top of that, we're going to be able to ignore unit collision, meaning we can walk through. It's kind of like illusory boots, just helps you reposition a little bit better. And then we're also running Provoke with Hit Me, which grants us extra block chance. So this is the area where, again, depending on what you roll for your blocks, if you get insane perfect gear, you might not need to really run the Hit Me rune, but it's just pretty much the best for most people. It just requires a lot of luck with your rolls on your pieces of gear to basically swap this out if you want to. But on top of that, you still gain, again, the extra Wrath, which we won't actually utilize for this build, but there might be another build that may emerge, as right now we don't have access to that 4th Knife Cube slot, which I'm thinking that we can definitely test it out. And like I said, if you guys are new here, subscribe and turn on that bell. I'll give you guys an update with this build, as well as everything else that is changing with PTR as far as like the best builds. But I want to try using Focus and Restraint, and then even trying out Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac, because that way we can 100% upkeep the ability to provoke our enemies, and that will make them take double damage. So there is some room for maybe some theory crafting with this as the season does progress when we get the next season update, which should be coming out next Thursday over here. But in terms of the passives, we're running Heavenly Strength because this is a two-handed weapon over here. Even though the damage looks low, it's because you can roll off the damage because you don't need it because it is a Thorns build. And then we have Iron Maiden, so that's going to be just more Thorns damage. Then we have Hold Your Ground, more block chance, and then Lord Commander. This is something that you can kind of swap out if you want to, as you can pretty much upkeep Steed Charge, but it does also give you cooldown on Bombardment, which you do want to manually cast. It will activate for free every once in a while with your Belt of the Trove, but definitely still activate it. This is the one passive that I'd say that if you really wanted to, you can swap that in and out. Maybe you're having trouble surviving, go ahead and run a different passive if you want to. Then in terms of the Kanai's Cube, we're running the Mortal Drama over here. We're also running the Belt of the Trove for that bombardment increase, and then we're running Royal Ring of Grandeur. And this is something that you can't run right now because it hasn't updated. Right now in the background, you guys are seeing all the multiple people that have already done this as a 150 GR, and so this is not just like a fluke. Sometimes it does happen on the PTR where you get in a really lucky rift, right, and it just happens to really help out with that push. But yeah, multiple people have done it, so this is definitely one of the strongest builds, as it's the only build as of right now that has done a solo 150, and there's multiple people that have done it. So I'm confident to say this is currently the best build if it doesn't actually get nerfed. But if there's a nerf, I'll put something in the pinned comment or change it up if it or maybe make another video if it really is being nerfed super hard. But if they change like something like it does like maybe like 50% less damage or something like that, I won't really update it. I'll just write down in the pinned comment over here. But yeah, in the 4th Kanai's Cube slot, you can run the Votoya's Spiker, which will make it so enemies affected by provoke take double damage from your Thorn. So this could be an option. I was also thinking about other things if you wanted more survivability in the armor department. Since you don't use any spender for your Wrath, you will have 100% uptime on your if you have to run this armor over here. Actually, I don't know if you can type it in over here. Okay, here we go. So you can run this as well if you want to. This armor over here, the Aquila Curious, will give you extra damage reduction as long as you are above 90% primary resource. All damage taken is reduced by 50%. There's also a shield where you block. Technically, you'd be at 75%. You would be able to reduce the damage you take by 60. So that could be another option as time goes on. I'll let you guys know. If it's just this or the other one, then you'll know exactly what to go ahead and shoot for. But again, I'll test out running the build where we run Royal Ring of Grandeur, and we could still try to mess around with maybe something like Focus and Restraint, or we can go ahead and throw in, let's say, Obsidian Ring of the Zodiacs, and maybe we'll have to swap out a skill, and then that way we can basically provoke 100% of the time with some extra cooldown reduction, and I'll test those things out in the future. But anyways, that's going to go ahead and wrap up the video. Again, the D3 planner will be linked down below in case any of you guys want to go ahead and read everything. But that's going to be it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, drop a like on it. And if you are new here and want to be up to date with more Diablo builds as they come out, as I'm really enjoying this new season's idea. And I can't wait to see the clones come out, which will be in 1 week. We'll see the new clones that we're going to be getting, and that 4th Kanai's Cube slot could change up the build a little bit for this as well as other things. I just dropped the newer Necromancer build video, and if you guys want to check that out, it'll also be pinned down below. But anyways, take care guys, have a good one, and I'll catch you in the next video. And I'm out. Peace.